Now, I'm seeing reports at the High Court today, this afternoon, through the Albanese government to Lifeline. A hint on how it could fix this mess of the 138 immigration detainees have now been released into the community, including murderers and rapists and a pedophile. Well, not so fast. In fact, before we even get to that judgment, there's a problem already. As I said last night, the government has now somehow lost one of those detainees that are released into the community with no controls. And today they still can't find him.
Can the Minister inform the House of the nature of this individual's crimes? And does the Minister know where this individual is now?
This government does not comment on operational or individual matters. The Australian community should be assured that all efforts coordinated under Operation Aegis are being made to track down this individual.
Oh, we've trained very hard. Joining me is the man who asked that question, the opposition's immigration spokesman, Dan Tehan. Dan, great to see you. How can the government lose one of those detainees so very fast? And do you buy the excuse you got today, well, we can't let you know who he is, we can't let you know what is done?
No, I don't, Andrew, and it is a very good question. I don't know how they've lost this detainee. You'll remember when they said they released them all, they put all these so-called strict requirements in place. Well, they've lost one of them and they won't tell us who it is, what they did or where they might be. And you'd think the best way to try and find that individual would be actually to put information out about him so the community could help in that fact. And we also found out today, which just goes to the complete incompetence of the handling of this, from a Al Jazeera report that the Malaysian man who you'll remember was part of killing that pregnant woman and then blowing her body up. It was reported today that that individual, when they were released, didn't have any requirements put on them for at least the first 2 days that they were out. So the more we find out about the government's handling of this, the more it just beggars belief.
And he's only an assassin, so why should we worry about him wandering our streets? And now to the High Court decision. It is rushed out its full reasons now for forcing the government to release these detainees. The government released them without any restrictions on where they were going, which was a bit stupid. But despite early reports, Dan Tehan, the full decisions don't seem to me a big help at all. It says the government can't decide for itself to hold indefinitely, in this case, the Burmese pedophile who took this case to court. It couldn't hold him indefinitely when no other country would take him. But it said, and this was supposedly the lifeline, the government could put this pedophile back in detention under, say, a new law for the preventative detention of a child sex offender who presents an unacceptable risk of reoffending if released. But isn't this just a ruling for one of the 138 detainees? How many of the others could be said to also pose an unacceptable risk of danger, and all you need to do is pass a law to put them back in jail or detention?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, Andrew. And the first thing I'd say is there's actually 141 detainees now out in the community. 3 of those don't seem to be having any monitoring whatsoever, which seems to have been a decision of the government's making. We don't know what's happened to those 3 and why that decision was taken. You've then got the other 6, 4 of whom have refused to have the ankle bracelets, one of whom they can't find. So there is 141 we're dealing with. What the High Court has said, though, is that if there was real prospects that they could be removed from the country, then they can be detained. Now, what we need to hear from the government is, have they done due diligence on these people before they release them? Are there real prospects, at least among some of them, that they could be removed from the country? And therefore, are they going to re-detain them and start again the process of removing them from the country? Because it would seem to me there's got to be at least some real prospects amongst those 141 that they could be removed from the country. So that's what they should be focused on, as well as putting the preventative detention regime in place that the High Court has said they could put in place, that we've been arguing they needed to put in place. So for those real serious offenders, like the child sex offenders, who there's a danger that they could do harm in the community, that you can use a preventative detention order to be able to make sure that the community is safe and they are in detention. So there are a number of things here, a number of steps that the government can take, and yet once again we're just hearing nothing from the government apart from the fact that they're talking about they might move on some sort of legislative process, but it's not clear at all what they're going to do. But there is no reason why they shouldn't be re-looking at those 141 again, seeing whether there's real prospects of them being removed from the country, re-detaining them and doing it.
But you can't re-detain them unless you do find now, under this judgment as I see it, they're an unacceptable risk of danger. And if there is an imminent prospect in each particular case of them being accepted by somewhere else, and I would think this applies to only a handful now of those people out there. So I don't see the lifeline necessarily. But Dan Tehan, this is costing us, it seems to me, real, we're looking like fools. We actually had the government so worried that this Burmese pedophile would get a decision in his favour in the High Court that they frantically shopped around in America, begging the Americans to will you take a Burmese pedophile off our hands? Would you accept him into American stead during the Prime Minister's visit there? I mean, how pathetic. What must the Americans think of Australians when the big favour they're trying to call in is, will you take a pedophile from us?
Well, it gets worse because it seems on the 30th of May that the Minister of Immigration, Andrew Giles, or his department, with the sign-off from the Minister, we would assume, said to the High Court that we do not think there is a reasonable prospect that we can remove this individual from Australia. So he basically, belled the cat, gave the game away in the actual case, which then led to the High Court making the decision that it did. And the reason the government then scrambled, it seems, is because someone woke up to the fact that Minister Giles had made this horrible, horrible error, and then they scrambled to try and fix it. But of course, it was too late. So the more we look at this, the more of a mess it is.
Well, it is, but I just think how diplomatically stupid to exploit the Prime Minister's visit to try and get America to accept a pedophile when we've got big defence issues on our plate and favours to ask for there. Dan Tehan, thank you so much for your time.